In other news tonight, this weekend, the court sent more than 120 fishermen to the Bahamas Department of Corrections over their roles in an illegal fishing haul in Bahamian waters. Fishermen are calling the court decision a victory, and so are fisheries officials who have been battling the menace for years. Tonight, we're joined by Senior Fisheries Officer with responsibility for enforcement, Guilford Lloyd. Good evening to you, Mr. Lloyd.
Good evening, teacher.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. The last time I saw you, you were sitting in court for the round one of what turned out to be a very lengthy arraignment process for those fishermen. How are fisheries officials reacting to this $6 million in fines? And one you mentioned, a $2 million fine previous to that a lot of people may not recall. What's the reaction of the department?
Well, teacher, I can say that we as a department are quite pleased with the ruling from the court. It represents one step towards as a management tool towards the sustainability of the fishing industry of the Bahamas.
Now, what can you tell us about what you may have been able to ascertain about the impact that fishing has had on marine resources over the years?
I can say from my conversation with fisher folks and other marine scientists, we've seen the decline of some of our fish stock, namely the spiny lobster, or crawfish, the grouper, and of late in particular the hogfish. Whenever I board the various arrested Dominican vessel, I've observed a large amount of their species that they've been taking out of our waters.
And if I can backtrack a little bit, speaking of the poachers, according to you, we've seen a lot of repeat offenders, those who have been here and faced a magistrate before, perhaps charged and convicted, returning. To what extent are we seeing that?
From the last two Dominican fishing vessels, I can say that there were a number of repeat offenders. Under the Fisheries Act, persons who are repeat offenders are penalized. They must pay double the incarceration time and the financial part of it as well.
Well, the government has proposed a series of agreements, including one that would eliminate Cuba as an escape route for those fishermen once they spot law enforcement. How important is that to maintaining law and order and most importantly, being able to enforce the law when fishermen are prepared to get violent and at the very least flee to safety?
I can say that is a very important step. It closes one of the escape doors that have been utilized, that these Dominican fishers have been utilizing. They leave the Bahamian waters and go across over to the Cuban side. Once we have the cooperation of the Cubans now, that door becomes closed, and then we're able to address them.
All right, and finally, I want to ask you perhaps the most pressing question. What happens to all that crawfish? You know, we love our seafood, and a lot of people who are watching probably would have some plans for what to do with that.
Once there has been a guilty verdict by the court, the magistrate makes a ruling on the catch, the resources, the gears, and the vessel. Upon a guilty conviction, normally an order of forfeiture is ordered, and upon this forfeiture, all the matters, the lobsters, the fish, the boat, the gears, all that is turned over to the Ministry of Finance, which is the governmental agency responsible for revenue, and Finance makes a decision as to the disposal of all of the matters.
This disposal, is it sold at market value? Does it go to charitable organizations?
That decision is made by Finance. I can say sometimes I've seen some of it went to charitable institutions, some of it went to sale for general public, and a lot of times most of it goes to the fish houses. It's easier to dispose of it by going to the fish houses. So it's simply that way. You don't have to spend days and days just bagging them and dealing with thousands of persons coming to get a $10, $20 bag. So just dispose of it quickly.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Guilford Lloyd of the Bahamas Department of Fisheries. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.